Maneva na sema PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV de osia dem yopo.
Pan-African television. And of course, we are live on Radio Gold. We are broadcasting live from the studios of Pan-African Television in Abelenke. We are live on social media, Pan-African Television on Facebook, Pan-African Television on YouTube. If you join us through any of those channels, do the comment section and share what your thoughts are on the discussions we'll be having. I am Senna Nombo on behalf of the crew here, the crew at Radio Gold, and across the country, many other affiliate radio stations. We want to say a big thank you to you for making time to join us on this show today. This morning, we're having a discussion on the matter of the Ghanaian Cedi. Well, this week, the Bank of Ghana issued a statement. It was simple, that on July 19, we will be marking 60 years of the Cedi as our sole legal tender. Now, this is interesting and comes at a time when there's a lot of talk about the relative strength of the Cedi against all the major trading currency. There are different explanations that have been given as to why that is the case. So we'll spend some time and talk about the matter of the Cedi and its performance against this major currency. How sustainable is it? Then we'll also talk about a matter that was addressed by the presidency this week. It was so when we were here on Saturday, I guess those events were happening. When we left here, the video was trending about Sami Jemfiu, CEO of the Gold Board, actually giving some money to this famous socialite known as Agrada. It was in dollars, attracted a lot of backlash. The presidency summoned him, and the presidency then decided that he's apologized to the presidency officially. They've cautioned him, but they decided that they will leave it at the caution. They will not take any further steps. The minority is dissatisfied, so they've decided to take this matter to scratch. So we'll spend some time on it, and then we'll conclude with what has been called a vacuum for at least a day, when the president was in Togo, was in Abidjan, Parliament was not in session, and you know the vice president has been seeking some medical attention for some time. The president tells us she will be in town next week. There were questions about whether there was not a power vacuum because of the absence of the president, the vice president, speaker was not available, and the fact that the CJ had not been sworn in. So we'll talk about the implications of that, because the minority was even threatening impeachment with their 88 in Parliament. Well, so that will conclude our discussion for today. And joining me in the studio for this discussion today, always nice to see him on a Saturday morning. I know it's not easy for member of Parliament at this time, especially for his particular ministry. Nowadays, the big issues are environment, climate change, and he's the Minister for Environment, Science and Technology. So a lot of the things he does involves a lot of traveling, I believe.
Well, a lot of works, and then surprisingly, maybe when I began to talk, I was shocked that there are no laws governing a lot of the issues for which the ministry was set up.
Okay. So there's so much work to do.
We believe that there isn't any law governing climate change in Ghana.
No, I'm away.
We don't have a law governing climate change. We don't have a law governing carbon trade. Okay. We don't have a law governing plastic waste. We don't have a law governing electronic waste. I was shocked that we don't, nothing. In fact, some
no
of
law
them,
governing how you should be
nothing.
managed.
Some of them we have regulations.
Okay.
In fact, only one we have law, we don't have regulation. In fact, some of them we just have policy frame.
Yeah.
I mean, strangely, I'm a political scientist, and I was shocked that you have this. Climate change is a major issue.
Yeah.
In fact, major issue to the extent that President Mahama, before he left office, he was the ambassador, UN ambassador on climate change. When we lost power and President Nana became president, the UN just shifted it to him. He also became ambassador. I mean, President Mahama has taken climate issue so serious to the extent that he appointed a minister of state in charge of climate in this country. I was shocked that we don't have a law. And you are aware that we don't have a law on climate change. I mean, I was shocked. Look, carbon trading is the way to go. Nothing. So what we have done is that we have engaged a legal firm to work on getting all those laws in place. And I have said that even if that becomes my legacy, as a Minister for Environment, Science and Technology, I'll be very happy that at least this government would have succeeded in putting in place the necessary legal regimes to regulate, you know, the activities surrounding the climate space and many other issues. I was shocked, frankly speaking, and these are some of the things that have actually, you know, gotten me so busy. What we intend to do, we are doing something that has never been done. For the first time, in fact, when I came, I engaged the various agencies, and I visited, you know, the agencies, and I was shocked, that lawyer, that the enormity of research outputs that are left in the shelves to gather dust. Our research institutions have conducted a lot of researches, and a research, the output, the utilization of a research output is more important than even talking about the research itself. So what we have, and I realize there is a gap between research institutions and academia and the private sector. So government is creating the platform where research institutions and academia will be brought together, so that they can take and research institutions, academia, and the private sector would be brought together in a forum that is a fair, so that the private sector can take advantage of the research output there for the purposes of advancing what they engage in. It is also an opportunity to challenge, you know, research institutions to conduct researches that are tailored to what they do. I'll give you two classical examples. Do you know meful was invented by CSR?
Yes.
That is CSR work. Then you had Kwame Despite, he bought it, I believe, at a paltry sum. He's making millions out of it. Pozolano cement. It was invented by CSR.
But there are so many things.
Yes, so many things. So, but you see, I engaged some reps of ANTAD who attended the program in Ghana at CSR, and they were shocked, the potential. So His Excellency the President has actually asked that we organize the first science and technology fair in Ghana. In fact, I was thinking we could do it quarterly, but when the President engaged me, he said we should do it biannually, so that we'll do it twice every year. This year we shall have the pre-launch of it ending of this month, and we'll have the actually fair in August. But the subsequent years we'll be doing it twice every year. And academia are so happy, the research institutions are happy. I have had Ghanaian scholars and experts in the space of research and science who have all given their commitment to participate in it. And also the several embassies and ambassadors actually paid a courtesy call on me, and they are all thrilled about this. They think that that is the way to go. Because we realize over the years, it seems to me the ministry focused so much on the environment aspects, you know, neglecting the science and technology and innovation bit. But see, with the new realignment, there's also misunderstanding. People think that the entirety of innovation is given to Ministry of Communication. It's only digital innovation which has been given to communication, because all the agencies under the Ministry of Environment, their core mandate and functions are to research and innovate. So in terms of innovation, still sits with the ministry. Yesterday I had a discussion with Cabinet Secretary Prof, and he said that that's a very good observation. Because people think that because with the new realignment, which is now in Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology, and the innovation bit, which has now been added to Ministry of Communication, it's just a digital innovation which has been added. So these are some of the things that indeed engaged me within the sub-regional level and the continent, and I am very hopeful. I'm very, very hopeful that we are almost getting there where we can access a lot of international funding for the purposes of executing President Mahama promises. Last one. You know, we are launching, the World Environment Day is on the 5th of June. And that is the day His Excellency President Mahama will launch Every Child Per Tree. You see, we have had programs of tree plantation. That one Abu Jinapo told us. For me, it was nothing but robbing the state, where he claimed that he planted 5 million trees. You can't even see the trees. The Every Child Per Tree would be the most transparent way of planting trees in this country. Sana, children are very competitive. So if we come out, and every child will be given the opportunity to plant a tree, own it, nurture it, and protect it, and help it grow. So, you know, children, when they are very competitive. Now, why this one is more transparent than what Abu and Co did, the fraudulent one the NPP did. This one, If you take, let's say, Jean Experimental Primary, or what's the name of your village? Daku LA Primary. If they have 100 students in the school, so you are expected to plant a minimum 100 trees by students in your school. So if you say we have planted 5 million trees, for example, and we've indicated the number of schools that we planted, school children will use to plant the trees, you can easily verify the total number of students in those schools, and the journalist or anybody can go there to find out whether every child has planted a tree in that school, and then you can do the calculation. So if it is about 200 schools, and it is verified that every child in the 200 schools have actually planted trees, how many students are in those schools? You can easily calculate. The reason why this thing is important, every seedling comes with a market value. We're told each seedling of trees they planted was around 200 Ghana cedis. This was nothing but one of the symptoms of the robbery that the people of this country were subjected to by President Nana Ado's administration, and that is why we are having something different. His Excellency the President shall launch the Every Child Per Tree, and this one, you know, those who are engaging to provide the seedlings, we are not buying them in the open market. CSR is providing the seedlings for the purposes of the Every Child Per Tree, and the target is to see if we can plant about 10 million trees. And this one is going to be transparent, it's going to be made known, any journalist, anybody can verify, because I think that is the way to go.
Great, thank you, thank you. And of course, where Andrew Apia Dankwa is the spokesperson for the Movement for Change. Solo tells me you are planning to outdo a party soon, because he kept telling us that there's a political party in the office.
I'm sure within the next 1 hour, you'll see a new
Political, oh, so you've already gone through the processes, almost ready?
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Nice. So he is spokesperson for the Movement for Change, and of course, we've just been joined by the Don of Ododo Dio, me, and I know it's a financial analyst.
I like that.
Long time. I thought they are stubborn in a white too.
Who is a financial analyst? Nee, good morning, and nice to see you.
Good morning, nice coming.
Yes. We are also waiting to see our friend Sabo Abdurrahman, who is Greater Accra Regional Director of Communications for the new Patriotic Party, Sabo Abdurrahman, who is also joining us to complete our panel for today. And that's our panel that will be discussing the issues that we're tabling today on the Mother of All Talk Shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. It's important that you share your comments and thoughts with us on the issues that we will be discussing. So now let's come to the discussion. And let's start from the matter of the Cedi and its relative strength, the strength that it is gaining. There are a lot of questions about why is this happening, what is causing it, what are the pull and push factors. Well, let me start with a man who is in government. Honorable, on the matter of the Cedi.
See, you cut me off. Good morning, and let me say good morning to my colleagues and my brother. Yes, unfortunately, I don't know why he chose to be with the Buza Dankwa tradition. When true and true Buza Dankwa tradition, people even ran away from that tradition. My brother is still with that. He started like a joke in Tatco. NPP. I thought it was just a joke. But I think that he's been consumed. Anyway, first and foremost, it should be a refreshing news to anybody in this country that when the Cedi is gaining more value against the dollar, everybody should be happy. I think that should be the first thing to consider, whether it is through accident or conflict or whatever decision that is leading to our domestic currency appreciating in value against the other foreign currencies, particularly the dollar. Everybody should be happy. And I think that largely progressive minds in this country are happy except the NPP. And I say this because we have leading members of the NPP who are absolutely livid. They are angry that the Cedi is appreciating against the dollar. I watched a video, a woman I call my mother, and I was flabbergasted. The ranting, as if she was even quarreling with someone over the dollar appreciating against the cedi. I was shocked. I nearly downloaded the video and sent to her. And she said that the government cannot take credit. It has to do with the tariff, between America and the entire global community that has occasioned the appreciation of the Ghanaian cedi without any basis. Nigeria is the largest trading partner with America in the sub-region, in fact, if not the entire continent of Africa. Nigeria. And therefore, if there is any decision in America which would have a consequential effect on any country as far as the economy is concerned, then Nigeria should be the country that should have been heavily affected. Because in the international trade space, even in economics, the one you trade with, that is why when decisions are taken, you are all mindful. You realize that the tariffs and the trade war, which people considered initially to be a joke, which is now a reality, was largely between America and China. If you listen to the rhetorics of Donald Trump, that the focus was just America and China, maybe perhaps he didn't want it to be seen as targeting China. Then he brought in Europe, and he brought in many countries. Maybe perhaps Africa is not directly being a country that Donald Trump, was targeting. And that is why immediately those who were affected and who are the largest trading partners with America indeed also came out with their own tariffs. So clearly, if you have such decisions taken, it should affect your largest trading partner. On that basis, Nigeria is the largest trading partner with America in the sub-region. And therefore, any decision that is taken by America and American government, which has consequential effect on trade and their domestic currency, Nigeria should have been. Why is it that the dollar is appreciating against the naira in Nigeria? It means that there is something more to it. And in fact, if you do proper analysis, even the CFA fund, particularly used by these French-speaking countries, the dollar is appreciating. So I was shocked that you have a leading member of NPP. And in fact, prior to her comments, which I believe that largely almost all of us have seen, several other leading members of NPP, including their communicators, said that we could not attribute the appreciation of the Ghanaian cedi at this material moment to any decision taken by government. But you don't need Archimedes to rise up from his tomb, or Adamsmith, and I can understand that they are still working with Wale Adamsmith, and therefore they may be looking at it in that perspective. When you have a country that is hugely dependent on other countries, particularly for commodities that they have the capacity to produce, it means that you would always have to look for foreign exchange, in this case dollar, but that has been the global standard of determining how global trade operates. Now, if you have a country that is hugely dependent on other countries, for things they have the capacity to produce themselves, it means that they would have to struggle as far as their domestic currency is concerned. Before the NDC left office in 2016, and I say this because I was the Deputy Minister for Trade and Industries, and anybody can check it. Government was spending sometimes $500 million, sometimes a little below, sometimes a little above, in the importation of rice and poultry products into this country. By the way, the NDC took it almost around $350 to $400 million from President Kufuor. Because sometimes I realize our friends, when you make such analysis, they tell you, how did you take it? So it means that as a result of the visionary policy interventions by the NDC, we were able to sustain it to the extent that when we were leaving office, it was around $500 million, sometimes a little above, sometimes a little below. By the time the NDC took over again, President Mahama, from this government, we were spending $3 billion in the importation of rice and poultry products alone into this country. $3 billion. So clearly, if you are spending $3 billion, so what it means is that, Senna, every year you have to look within the domestic market to mobilize $3 billion to import that which you have the capacity to produce. In this country, we're all told by my good friend, the communication officer of NADMO, that they were actually using imported rice and imported products. Buffer stock was buying imported rice. School feeding, imported rice. So if you have a new government that comes and the new government says, buffer stock henceforth, you are not going to use buy imported rice. School feeding, you are not going to buy imported rice. What's the name? NADMO, you are not going to buy imported rice. That policy decision alone has a rippling effect on how your domestic current fares. You see, we have done it before. Many people think that we cannot bring down the dollar, and I remember my wife asked me, the way you people are talking about the dollar and the level at which it is rising, is it possible for you people to bring it down? And I said we can. Because in 2014, we succeeded as a country in reducing the importation of rice into this country by 60%. By 40%. And succeeded increasing the production of local rice by 60%. So you could see a direct correlation between the reduction of imported rice into this country and the production of local rice. So there was a correlation. There is one thing you can increase the production of local rice, but you're not able to reduce the importation of rice. So there was a direct correlation. So we have done it before. Look, I was in Nigeria last 3 weeks. Do you know how they call perfume rice? The perfume rice that many Ghanaians now, if you cook even the local rice, they don't want. They call it Ghana rice. That's how they call it now. Ghana rice. It took a policy decision by the Nigerian government to discourage the importation of such foreign rice from Taiwan and Thailand and other places into Nigeria. And Senna, I speak from experience. Everybody knows that I farm. Everybody knows that Ajimamenu, the former Minister for Health, farms. Everybody knows that Akando, one of the biggest rice farmers, Honorable Tanku of Yaba, Honorable Sohino, Honorable Adongo, we all engage in rice production. Now, Avnash, I guess you've heard of Avnash. I mean, Sabo, he knows Avnash. It's a rice milling company in the north, one of the biggest rice milling companies. Avnash used to buy the rice from us and other companies directly from the farmers, those of us who do not mill. So you farm, in fact, and they had some incentives that they will come and give you even fertilizer, they will give you farm implements, tractors, combine harvesters, and mostly those of us who farm around Yaba. Honorable News have seen, everybody knows, we use the crawlers, because you would have to harvest the rice when it has certain moisture level, because if you don't harvest it then and it dries up, when they are milling, they break, and that's what they call broken rice. So you'd have to harvest it at a certain moisture level and then dry it. So when you want to harvest at that moisture level, you must use the crawlers. Those combined harvesters, they operate like graders. You know, even in the muddy farm field, they can still move on. So you have these companies, they bring them, they give farmers, so that you take it as a loan. So when you harvest, they take rice instead. So it means that they were desperately willing to buy the local rice from farmers. Now, Avnash, the last 3 years, said they could no longer buy. You know why? They had a lot of rice in stock and the state was not buying. Because government is the biggest buyer. So if they buy from the farmers and mail them, then the state then what? Buys. Now if the state is no longer buying from them, instead buying from some foreigners who bring them, who import them into this country, then what happens? They can't buy. So the local farmer produce the rice, they will not. And I'll tell you, and this one you can verify. A rice milling company still owes me 350,000 Ghana cedis. Almost a year now. Because I had no option. I sold and I had to sell to them. They haven't still paid. Because they mail, no one is buying. And to be very honest, there is so much profit in farming. Me, to be very honest with you, 350,000 Ghana, you haven't still paid me. I said, the rice is there. They don't have markets for them. Now, because you had NADMO buying imported rice, you had buffer stock buying imported rice, you have school feeding, you have someone who was in charge of supplying schools with school feeding rice, importing the rice. Then the local farmers will not. How do they import them? They use foreign currencies, in this case, dollars. So every year, they have to look for dollars to be able to do what? To import them. And it's a simple law of demand and supply. I only did economics at SHS. And the law of demand and supply says, the law of supply says the higher the supply, the lower the price. The lower the supply, the higher the price, particularly if it is an inelastic, product. And the law of demand says the higher the demand, the higher the price. So, assuming I have produced 10 mobile phones, and this is like a necessity, an inelastic product, then we are here. How many are we? We are 5 in this studio. Then we all need this particular thing. And you produce them 10. It means that we each can have what? One, and there will be extra 5. So for you to get the 5 off, you would have to reduce the price. But if you produce 2, and we have 5, and we all need it, you would increase the price. So when there is so much dollars in circulation, the value of the dollar will come down. But when there is a chase, a struggle for dollars, what happens to the value? It goes up. So when people have to struggle to look for dollars to import things we have the capacity to produce as a state, what happens? The value of the dollar goes up. So the single statement of the president directing these important state institutions not to buy imported rice, but buy rice from local farmers, it tells you something. It means that people will not be struggling for the dollars. And if you know how the business community operates, my father was a businessman. My entire home, they were businessmen. How it operates, people would want to look for the dollars. So when the dollar is coming down, I would want to buy the dollars because I know by next year I'll be what? I'll be importing. So I need dollars to be able to do that. Sometimes not even the cash, the bank transactions. If I need to import rice somewhere, I don't necessarily need to get dollars to send there, but ask my bank. And when they want to wire or do the paper transaction, they do the paper transactions in dollars. It still has an effect on the circulation of dollars you have in your system. And the NPP simply can't get this. They simply, look, I'm not an economist, and they simply can't get this. I'll give another example. Look, the gold bond is very clear. Anybody could come and buy gold in this country. And they buy the gold with what? With dollars. Because I've heard my mama Pat saying that, how about the euro? We don't do our business in euro. So that analogy was bonkers, to say the least. So if you do that, and government now has a regulation, and mind you, the foreign currency market operate in sometimes speculation. Yeah. It's speculation, oh. Mm. And I'll give you a classical example because our friends are not just smart to know. When the NPP were asking for Ken Oforiatta to resign, when we were asking for him to resign, and subsequently the NPP who ended up becoming Tumorous Souls, when they demanded that he should resign, and there was a news that the president was going to ask him to do what? To resign. The dollar started coming down. You remember? Because it's speculatory. So the confidence the international community has in a government that is not corrupt, taking over from the most corrupt government ever in the history of this country, has a bearing on how our local currency fares. The business community is willing to invest in Ghana. You had businesses, investors who were taking their investment out of this country. Look, I listened to one radio station. They interviewed some traders in Kumasi. You know, when they agitated that because the dollar is coming down, and Abuso, sorry, that they should reduce the prices of their product. And you had, I guess, those unbridled NPP, operators, some of them at Abosokan. They said, oh, we are not going to reduce the prices. The dollar is not coming down because of the performance of this government. It is coming down because of Donald Trump's statement on tariffs. Dump. How about Nigeria? How about the other countries? So you see, they still cannot accept that President Mahama is doing something good. So I'm saying that a mere statement, and that is why in the foreign policy space, a mere statement of a president becomes a foreign policy position. So a mere directive given by the president that NADMO, buffer stock, school feeding, don't use imported rice, use locally produced. And I'm saying that I sit here. Already, those who used to buy rice from us, I'm on several platforms and I can let your people even share it. They are telling us incentive, they will provide fertilizer, they will provide this for us to farm because the part is now very clear. They are telling us, if you want tractors, we can give you. If you want combined harvesters, we can give you. We are willing to give you fertilizer. They are coming. Ask anybody, ask Ajimamenu, the former minister for Agric. Those who used to buy from us directly from farmers, who refused to buy any longer because government was not buying, because there wasn't any serious policy direction by the state to encourage the use of locally produced rice. They are all over us. I have had some of them who called me. In fact, just 3 days today, the one I said were owing me about 350 indicated to the person that, oh, they are willing to pay the money very soon. So it means that it's speculatory. They see that the signs are positive. So we can buy more. If we buy more, the state will buy from us. There's a directive that all head teachers, they will now buy their own food. You know how good that thing is. When they were all using imported rice, now the money is given to the various, senior high schools. They spend the money in the local economy. The Tamale market, the most important and better school in the northern part of the country, Ghana School. Oh, Tamasana School is another experimental. What they do there is they eat kose and wasa. It's another experimental. When you are talking of school, Tamasana School, there is, in fact, other schools are even better. So I'm saying that Ghana Secondary School, the school that has produced both the president and the first lady, in fact, they produce a very corrupt vice president, Damascus, who struggled to become president. Adamsmith. So I'm saying that my school, Ghana School, and even Sandalgo Experimental, B School, Nobi School, these head teachers who used to get rice, Accra, they shipped it straight, use them for school feeding now, they will now spend the money in the Tamale market. So the local man and the local farmer who engages in small farming brings his rice to the Ababu market for people, he would have market for it. So the money is not going to be sent somewhere by some foreign importer in this country. So how can't NPP get this? Look, I'll give another classical example, Senna. Look, when I was the Deputy Minister for Trade and Industries, there was a ban on the importation of rice. Small rice importation of rice into this country. It was done even before, I think, Honorable Haruna's time. Now, when Honorable Haruna was moved to employment, I was moved from information, myself and my brother, Honorable Rickett, I was moved from information to trade, and then Honorable Rickett from finance to trade. And later, Dr. Spilgabra was moved there, even before Dr. Spilgabra was vetted, because we were already the deputy ministers at different ministries. The small rice importers petitioned, and if they'll be watching, and they can deny this. They petitioned the ministry to lift the ban which was imposed, I think, during Honorable Haruna or Honorable Ahnatete's time. The big rice importers also petitioned. And I remember when I engaged all of them, those who were there, the directors, I told them, don't attempt to bribe me. If you attempt to bribe me, I will let the police pick you. I told them. Because I feel, we live in a country where the business committee, some of them think that there's a price tag on every politician. Now, when we did this, I said, we're going to do a very fair, honest job, but wait until the minister comes. Because I was a deputy minister. When Dr. Spilgabra was finally vetted and sworn in, I put this before him. And he said, look, And I suggested what we could do, and he agreed that we formed a task force to do an independent investigation.
Yeah.
Because the allegation was that they were bringing the rice through the Lubo border, Togo, and other borders. Without paying the necessary taxes, they can come in there, and the big rice importers, you know, they bring them through the ports. So the state can assess, they can pay the required taxes. But those small rice importers, they can go and bring the rice from Ivory Coast and Togo million times even a year. You could not access. Do you know the one I made to lead the investigation? Kofi Kapito. And that was the time Kofi Kapito was on NDC government. You remember? Attacking, I used Kofi Kapito. I used some selected journalists, including Peace FM and others. We provided money for them. When they went to those borders, engaged in it as if they themselves were bringing in the rice, when they came, Kofi Kapito, if wherever he is, he's listening, the report was that we should not lift the ban. No, are you getting it? We shouldn't lift the ban. And said, look, and I remember Kofi Kapito, I mean, I'm an NPP person. And a lot of the people who are engaged in the small rice importers, they are people. But please, for the sake of this country, don't lift the ban. And that was the reason why we maintained the amount of money we were spending for the purposes of importing rice into this country around, and poultry products around 500 million. The moment this government came, you know what they did? They didn't come out and announce that we are lifting the ban, but they told them, go ahead and bring in these products.
Okay.
So it is saturated. So they can, and you know, they get them very cheap. When they bring them, the local rice cannot even compete. So the one who is heading an institution feels that, okay, if I buy from the importer at a cheaper rate, and maybe perhaps because corruption and the NPP appointees were like a Siamese twins, they feel that, okay, let's get it, let's get this, and they buy them at a cheaper prices at the expense of the locally produced rice. So I'm saying that it is not a fluke. I'm not saying I want to start jubilating over this. No, I'm not that type who says let's jubilate over it. But we should all be happy, even if it is by accident, that our city is appreciating NPP for the first time demonstrate that patriotism which you rather hypocritically added in your name as new patriotic party, yet there isn't a scintilla of patriotism in you. As long as that patriotism doesn't inure to your benefit, you cannot be calling yourself new patriotic party using the word patriotic. Yet when there is enough ground for you to demonstrate that patriotism, you are indeed being anti-patriotic. You are against the progress of this country, and you are so hurting that you do everything. Apart from the communicators, you have your leading members. When the party is in opposition, as they sit today, they don't have a presidential candidate. The leadership in parliament are the leaders of your party, including your national executive. And all of them are saying that don't give NBC any credit for what we have achieved. It is because of Donald Trump's tariffs imposition on things. Yet Nigeria, which is the biggest trading partner, the dollar is not doing well. The naira is not doing well. Our city is doing well. So I expect my brother, maybe perhaps when it comes to his turn, he would apologize to the people of this country on behalf of the NPP and tell them that maybe perhaps they didn't know, they will go and sin no more. So I'm not saying that we are there yet, but I am very optimistic that His Excellency the President should ensure that nobody, no appointee goes against his directive of important, particularly these very important state institutions, buffer stock, school feeding, NADMO. They should not. If they are not able to do that, and I can tell you, we will be able to sustain this and perhaps bring the dollar down. I am very convinced about that. Okay. Because there are a lot of things, Senna, we are spending a lot of money importing that we have the capacity to do.
Produce, okay.
Honestly, and the president has demonstrated that time beyond number. Okay. So I expect my brothers and co, for the first time at least, they should demonstrate some level of patriotism.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. And if you just join us, the matter of all talk shows, Alaji and Alaji, of course, we are discussing whether or not the current performance of the city can be maintained. Because you've mentioned the NPP and you've even brought in Sabo,
I know he's objective. I mean, honestly, so I expect him to be.
So I'll bring in Sabo for his views on this. Good morning.
Thank you very much.
Nice to see you this morning.
My landlord wanted to corner me. But it was my landlord in the normally, I find it difficult, discussing politics with him. I think whoever knows him, especially school days, will attest to the fact that, it didn't matter whether you are related to him or not. The most important thing is do the right thing. And then you are good to go. In fact, we didn't know each other from anywhere. We only met in school. But till we left school, I cannot even single out something that he has ever done to me that I would say that I will need an apology or it's a bad experience. However, I don't know why he's where he is.
So he started rather calmly, but I knew that he wasn't going to laugh
Like you said, you don't know why he's where he is.
So I tell my friends that if political parties were to be on lineage, I should be an NPP. My grandfather was one of the founding fathers of the UP tradition, Yakub Tali. You know, they named the Tamal Airport, which we shall be changing. We'll have to change it absolutely. It has nothing to do with family.
Your grandfather.
But Masa, why? I'm saying that if you are naming something and the Yana and many other people have problems with it, you never consulted and never. No, he has. In fact, NX. Yana, no, as a matter of fact, he expressed it. So I'm saying that. So if it has to do with lineage, but you see, Sabo, the moment I started growing up, and I developed the habit of reading.
Okay.
But we are reading about Ghana's political history. The more I read about the political history of this country, the more I distance myself from the UP tradition.
Please go ahead.
And I want you to do the same. There are some books I will make available to you.
I would appreciate that.
Dedi kama mamena PENDREAM TV ase. Na so far so good. Say open online portal e wo Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.